Hey FCC world, again, so encouraged that you could join us again. Just let me briefly remind us where we're at as we listen to this new bit of content from the FCC office. The first installment of this chat came last week, so you can go and find that in the YouTube kind of history, plus you can go onto the podcast and find the first half of this talk where Steve, the guy who we're going to be talking to in a little while, really introduced us as to why he found himself in ministry, how he came to become a Jesus follower, and how he found himself particularly at Cessnock Congregational Church. This week, we're going to build on that, on those elements of discussion, and we're going to really push into how Steve has begun to reshape the ministry at Cessnock. I'm going to recap this at the end, but we're going to hear about how he was influenced by different movements coming up in Australia, and mostly how he started to focus on things like vision and team ministry, and to see how that's actually been playing out at Cessnock, why he brought about some of those things, but also, some of the fruit that he's seen. So again, hopefully this is going to be encouraging to you, and I'll see you in a little while when Steve finishes up. Steve and Lee finish up. I'll see you.
Said one line, two things yesterday in this component. One was, I just want to see conversion grow. And the other one was, I just need to keep on asking the next question of, what's next? What do I need to do differently? Have you thought about what it will look like for you to see people becoming Christians? Because that's been your heart all along. That's kind of the thing that made you make some changes way back and whatever. Have you had any thoughts about that moving ahead? And then we're going to ask the last question, which is just about what your hopes and dreams are for us as a network of pastors as well. So.
Well, in terms of seeing people come to the Lord, it was wonderful a few months ago through Christian Explored. A lady came to the Lord. She's in her early 20s, came to the Lord. Yeah. And there was so we've got a group of I'm marrying her this Sunday. and there was another wedding for another couple about 2 months ago. And so I've formed a home group with these people that are just new Christians and coming on board. And a couple of years before that, another guy through Discipleship Explored, Christian Explained. So that has to always be there, and that's been a good thing to just keep that ticking over and become a home group now. So that's got to be a priority. Always looking to see who is maybe on the fringe or who, as I said before, what's the next step for this person?
Yes.
And write them along. And if you can get them to a specific thing like Christianity Explored, or, there's half a dozen varieties of that we all know out there. Yeah. Keep that as a priority. Keep that thing in your church, that point of, conversion engine, I think, is the word they use. It sounds horrible, but give that profile. Think about that, pastors. Where are so if someone does come to your church, are they a Christian or not? If they're not, well, how do you move them on? So keep that. I prefer to just do one-on-one in McDonald's. That's why a lady came to the Lord 10 years ago. But anyway, however you do it. Yeah. What was the other thing?
And then the last thing, the last thing is just, what are, I suppose, what are some of your hopes and dreams for us as a network of pastors, and maybe what's something that you would encourage us in? And then we'll go to time of questions, because you've mentioned a few different things there. We haven't explained them all entirely, but it would be good to give people a chance to ask you a few questions, mate. So the last question is, what are your hopes and dreams for us as a network of pastors and gospel workers, and maybe what would you encourage us in at this point?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would love to see us fulfill that mission statement of what a network of flourishing evangelical churches reaching. As I said, I'm not good on mission statements, but fulfill that. And so I think the way that you do that, so what I would encourage everyone to do is to, after 5-6 years here, of just, I'm still running around with the head cut off like a chalk, but the Lord got me to pause, pray, reflect, and then from that action came about.
Yes.
So I would just encourage everyone to just, have a reset. Get your elders, your deacons around, or do it yourself first, but get them around, have a brainstorm. Well, what are we doing? Like we've been running this group for 20 years, but has anything happened? Do we just do it because the community, we run a craft group, whatever it is? I suppose have a gospel lens in terms of how do I reach out, and then just reassess everything.
Yes.
Because you keep doing everything and keep going, but are you doing the right thing? As I start to read some of these leadership books and stuff now, so I still don't enjoy, but every now and again I'll, they're the things I learn. Are you doing the right? You can be busy, but are you doing the right? If you're doing the wrong thing, well, it doesn't matter what you're doing, So I would just encourage people to pause and do that, but also tap into, and I really encourage pastors that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I didn't reinvent the wheel. I just tapped in guys like Reach Australia. And if you go to their website, if you want to learn more about Discipleship Pathway, I don't know how many videos there are, 20-minute, half-hour videos. Please go on about Discipleship Pathway. What is that? Well, go and find an expert on it, not me.
Yeah.
Watch a 20 video with your elders and deacons, and then just pause, pray, reset, think, get some guidance through these guys that are doing it really well. Tap into the resources there. You don't have to reinvent, and then reflect on that. Yeah. And then we'll have that. We do this, or can we do this differently? Yeah.
That's good, Steve. It's been there's so much more I want to ask you and dig in, because I just love the way that you've been approaching some of that stuff and just asking the question all the time. So thank you very much for your time and your insight. We're going to throw to the guys now for questions.
But how much of some of the growth and some of the expansion you've seen is down to context? A lot of people moving out of Sydney, moving up north to places like Cessnock or Newcastle. Because I know other churches in the area, like Hunter Bible Church as well, has benefited from that. So is it contextual as much as it's practical? Is it a bit of both? Have you ever thought about the blend of the two? Or
Oh, absolutely, Tim. Yeah, as I think you said before, all in different contexts. So we've got a Christian school up here, St. Philip's Christian College, and so we've had teachers, and a lot of the energy and help for me has come from teachers coming up from Sydney and elsewhere, Broken Hill, and joining our church. So it's been there's a fairly close link there. It's interesting because, like, we had a great youth guy that left. He did great stuff. Now he went last year. I've just got our small group leaders told me last week that now they're going to Sydney, back to Sydney. So it comes with a lot of turnover as well, but we've been blessed with good, solid, evangelical people coming up from Sydney. Yeah,
that's sure.
And Steve, one of the things that you were saying yesterday when we were talking about what do you think maybe facilitated some of those, changes in growth, and you did mention the context was one of them, the school, but then also too, you were one of you were the main full-time employed pastor in Cessnock. Some of the other churches were only employing part-time and whatever. And it's important, I think, that particularly for those guys who are in Sydney thinking about rejuvenating, the big challenge is there's 10 other good churches in the suburbs around that does make that quite a different dynamic that Sydney guys need to wrestle with more. than maybe in the rural context. I'm not sure, but it is worth, I mean, you did acknowledge that, and that was really helpful to say that.
Yeah.
Yes, Steve, you mentioned Neville Ogilvie. What's his role and how's he helped?
So Neville came on board as the mission and membership pastor. So he just doesn't like technology. So I reminded him about this again today, but he just something I got to. So his role is to facilitate that. So at the moment we're interviewing online Zoom those 12 participants. So he plays a role in that. And I'm wanting him to, get more creative in that mission space and think through that. On the welcoming as well. He's just another person, because I said things are obviously a bit different now, but a couple of years ago when things were really booming and I'm just missing people, and so we needed that connection. Good sounding voice, and a lot of people would know Rick Schroeder as well. Yes. So the three of us worked together. Prior to COVID, we were meeting, every Tuesday morning at 7:30 just to talk and pray. So Rick's another key guy in the mix. But mission membership or mission integration pastor, that sort of Neville's remit. Yeah.
Hey, Steve. You talked a little bit about when you arrived and that journey into developing a mindset of teams with the church. I think sometimes as pastors, we develop a mindset of we've got to do everything. And when there are gaps and things, we've got to kind of plug every kind of thing. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe some of your journey of sort of realizing that stuff in order to grow, you had to give it over to others, and maybe some of the things that you learnt about ways that was helpfully done, or in hindsight maybe you do things a bit differently.
Yeah, look, I think that pressure is still very much there though, Michael. So I'm still doing youth group on a Friday night. I mean, look, I love the kids, but I'd rather not. I'm trying to prepare a sermon or something then. And there's still lots that I do feel I have to do to fill in the gaps. So we're not quite there yet, but it's getting people. I think if you make an announcement up the front, nothing happens. I don't know about. You just got to have a chat. You just get people around for lunch on a Sunday and you have a chat, or you go have a coffee through the week and you say, look, we're thinking about X, Y, Z here. What do you think? And I think it's a very sort of fluid, organic thing, how that all begins. You just wait, you pray, you get some ideas, you think about the people, you go through your church directory, your role, and you look at people, you see where there might be connections, and you start a conversation. It's not overly structured. It's quite organic. You just say, well, we've got to be doing this. The whole team thing, I can't remember a lot of it, but I do remember coming back from team pastoring Reach Australia and writing down that, just welcoming music, audio, visual, women's. Our men's ministries have got a big hole. That's not really happening. Never really has worked. And I suppose just being intentional about, instead of just, as I said, a lot of people were doing things anyway, but it's now recognizing them. It's now saying you're the team leader. It's saying, give us a bit of a description then about how you want to approach the job description, as it were. What is the remit of the welcome team? How do you do that? How do you host? Have a meeting. Yeah, and I don't have to be there. And I suppose just being in, it's quite organic how it evolves, but when it starts evolving through conversation, being intentional then to, I suppose, delegate, gives them a sphere, get that team to bounce off one another. And then they might ring me up after. So our meeting, we discussed this, and this. And I said, that's great. That's all I need, Not too formal, but just give recognition and a profile, just being intentional. Yeah.
And thank you. And that's probably a good place, because I want to make sure that Michael has got time to finish things up. That's probably a good final word from Steve. But Steve, would you be open to people kind of calling you up and having a yarn? Because, we've just skimmed over the surface of a bunch of things here. Would you be happy to follow up conversations with people if they'd like to do that?
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. Yep.
It'd be really awkward if you said no, wouldn't it? But maybe if you can just pop your details into the chat function, that would be good. And the other thing as well that may be helpful for you is that Steve has just developed within their church like a membership course that they're seeking to run really quite regularly as well. That's a podcast series for Tim and Michael on another day, membership courses and stuff like that. But Steve, thank you very much. Let's show a bit of appreciation to Steve, and awesome silent Zoom clapping.
Isn't it great to hear a little bit of Steve's journey, especially that he's been really quite intentional and strategic in how he's played out ministry in his church. He's thought about things that he can strengthen. He's thought about his processes. He's even thought about hiring to strengthen some of those areas of his church. I was really encouraged for Steve's really humility in how he was willing to listen to other voices and change some of his practice. That really challenged my heart and challenged even my practice as I think about my own ministry behaviours and my own ministry habits. So hopefully the last 2 weeks have been really helpful for you as you've pushed, or as we have pushed into Steve's experience and now, lastly, Steve's practice. And I think some of the fruit that we can see at Cessnock is really evidence of the success of Steve's ministry and the way God's worked through him and through some of the changes there. Super stoked again that you can join us. Hopefully you've been here and you found this encouraging. Like I said, we're going to have some more consistent material coming out over the next few weeks, and it'd be great if you could join us then. So I'll see you then for podcast February edition. See you then.